28 or 29, I don't know, and she had her little kid with her, and they were looking at baseball cards, and she goes, "This one's from 1990, really old." And I'm like, "Wait a second." I used to collect baseball cards in 1990. I have a whole box of them in my garage.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was feeling my age this weekend.
I've heard now some of the younger generation call it people who were born in the 1900s. Have you heard of this? I'm like, are you serious? You haven't heard? This is a thing. Like they talk about talking about stories of people who were born in the 1900s. Like you.
That's just offensive, is what
I know. Totally.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Gen X Journey Podcast. Dive into all things important to Gen Xers, from advice on aging parents, expert interviews, product reviews, and heartfelt conversations. So put down the joystick, grab your Walkman, dust off your old yearbooks, and welcome to the Gen X Journey.
Welcome to the Gen X Journey Podcast. This is Noel Curson with my friends Keith Abbott and Steve McCulkey, and today's topic, gentlemen, is 1985 technology. So Steve is going to be taking us through that. Steve?
You bet, man. So 1985 is an interesting year in technology. Not the best year in technology, I don't think, but there's some cool stuff, some cool products that we all remember very well that debuted, and even some products that we use today that I'm looking forward to sharing with y'all.
Awesome.
The major theme of this year was the development of personal computers and really becoming a mass market use of personal computers. So the first technology I'm going to talk about, and I'm curious if I remember this, is called the Atari ST. It was the first introduction of a personal computer from the video game maker Atari.
I think we had briefly mentioned it on the episode, but I didn't go deep into it. So interesting. So it was a personal computer built by the Atari company.
Yeah. So released in June of 1985, his introductory price was $799.99 for a monochrome monitor.
That's a lot of nines.
Yeah, if
you had
the extra $200, if you had the extra if you had the extra $200 in your pocket, then you could splurge for a color monitor.
Ooh,
and so I don't remember the Atari ST at all, but it actually ran for just about 8 years, ran until 1993 when it was discontinued, and it sold 2.1 million units during that time frame. And it featured their own operating system, not DOS, but TOS, TOS. I have no idea what that T stands for.
TOS.
You have any idea, Noel?
No, I don't actually. Tandy operating system might make sense because Tandy was a big thing back in the day, but that's all I can think of.
Yeah.
No clue. The research department.
I was about to sit with my research department on that one.
So it featured the TOS operating system, and check this out: 512 kilobytes of memory.
Oh my gosh!
Oh man!
And I'm sure at the time we were like, "Wow, this is awesome!" But of course, with that little memory available, it was very reliant upon the floppy disk, the 5 1/4 floppy disk at the time.
The research department just returned a little leaflet on the TOS operating system. It actually stands for the operating system, and it was the main operating system used by Atari ST computers in the mid to late 1980s and early 90s.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go.
Yeah. Way to go, research department.
They rule. We got the best.
The operating system seems a little maybe far. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe they thought too highly of their operating
system. The operating system didn't get very far, did it?
Reminds me of the past music episodes we did, where Van Halen.
What are we gonna name this thing?
Yeah, we should name it just
Van Halen.
Maybe the operating system. I don't know.
This one's called Van Halen. That's crazy.
So also in 1985 was the Casio FX 7000G, which was the first introduction of a graphing calculator.
Oh,
And so I always think about HP and all their graphing calculators and what started it. But actually, Casio was the first to dip their toes in that water.
interesting.
And it ran off of a 9-volt battery. And that's all I know about it.
There you go. That's enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, not exactly. By the way, if we want to talk about something else in 1985, we should talk about consumer products that were introduced in 1985 because there's a lot of good stuff. I almost changed topics from technology to that. But an important thing that came out in 1985 was the Discover credit card debuted.
Oh,
Do you have
I've
any
heard of
idea
that.
who introduced that to us?
Discover. Let's see. The Discovery Channel. No, I don't know.
Oh,
No,
that's a good guess. American Express.
no, not even close. So, the Sears retail store
Are you
introduced
serious?
that.
What?
Yep.
I did not
So
know
it,
that.
it was the first credit card to not have an annual fee, and featured a higher than normal credit limit. And they were
Interesting.
later the first to introduce the cashback bonus. So,
Oh, there you go.
so it's still around to this day. They do, I think I saw, was $16 billion in credit every year.
That's
And,
crazy.
B.
B's and billion.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Do you all know anybody that has a Discover card? I don't think I've ever seen anybody that's ever had one.
I used to have one.
Did you? Okay.
I was about to say I knew somebody, and I think it was Steve. So yeah.
There you go.
That's how I pay. That's how I pay for all the beer at the strip. I mean,
There we go.
Exactly.
Hey, that worked.
yeah.
This is free money. I like
That's
it.
awesome.
So the next product was also another personal computer. I might throw a line out to the research department for a little bit of information. It was called the HP Vectra. It was the first line of personal computers offered by Hewlett Packard. If you remember the Hewlett Packard Pavilion series that came out
I do remember
for a
that,
long
yeah.
time. It actually debuted the next year after the HP Vectra, but they discontinued that computer in 1992. And its main selling point, it had 640 megabytes of RAM.
Wow.
So
That was its claim to fame, huh?
I mean, it was touted for being you could store a lot of items on that computer, and
Oh my gosh, man.
pretty crazy, right?
That is so strange. It blows my mind. Like,
It really is.
Is that one MP3 or too much of it? I don't know. That might be too much.
Yeah, I may not get a whole one on there.
Yeah.
There's not much.
Short fanfare, maybe.
Yeah. Nice.
The next product is the Apple LaserWriter computer or printer debuted in 1985. It was the first laser printer to be available to the mass market. Check this out. The original cost of this laser printer. Any guess?
Oh, $1,000.
It's like, I don't know, man. The computers back in the day were like $3,000. So I'm gonna go with 5,000.
So no, you're closest. $6,995. If it translated with inflation to today, it would be $20,450
for a
printer.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it printed out a whopping 8 pages per minute, and of course, it was black and white only print. So
that is insanity.
That's wild.
Wow, that's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So this next item is something we still use to this day. It was released on November 20th, 1985, and that's Microsoft Windows.
Okay.
This year. The name Windows is a reference to the windowing system and graphical user interfaces. Now I believe we refer to them as GUIs. Am I right?
GUI.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember you talking about that. Yeah.
I've talked about GUIs before. It's good to hear it's actually confirmed in your own research. So
yes. So today
y'all thought I was making that up.
Yeah, I recall that. Yeah. Today, Microsoft Windows is still the most popular operating system in the world, and it's present in almost 70% of personal computers throughout the world.
That's wild.
It's still dominant. I would prefer to use a Mac at work if I had a choice, but they don't ever give me that choice. Originally cost $99 for the first piece of software. And it was not a popular software. It received a lukewarm response with mixed reviews for it being slow, and it lacked compatibility with very little software. So it was really, I guess, it was Microsoft's attempt to make MS-DOS easier to use. So
that makes sense.
Yeah,
that does make sense. Because MS-DOS, whenever it first came out, was just command line. Mm-hmm. Which, if you ever know what command line is, you're basically programming a little bit. It's light programming to like make a folder, make a file, that kind of stuff. So that's what GUI did, is it actually automated that, so you didn't actually have to type in the commands to make a folder, make a file, all that kind of stuff. So they call them directories anyway back in the day.
Good old GUI.
Oh yes, GUI's our friend.
That's interesting.
So you're going to dig this next one because I believe y'all both had one of these. We had one as well. This is the year that the Nintendo Entertainment System debuted in North America.
Yes, sir.
Originally launched in Japan in 1983, 2 years prior. The NES ran for 10 years, discontinued in August of 1995. And during that 10-year time frame, sold 61.91 million units during those 10 years. So there's no wonder we still see them around. I mean, it's rare you can't walk into it.
I literally have one in this room that I'm in right now.
That is so crazy.
I've got one of those 61.9 million.
Fire it up, Noel.
Yeah. I mean, don't tempt me. You don't have to tell me twice.
Yeah. So the introductory price was $179 when it debuted, which is roughly $520 today. And any guesses what the best-selling game was for the NES?
Probably something with Mario.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Super Mario Brothers. 40 million copies sold.
And they have milked it ever since.
I think it came with the units initially, like when they first started selling, but then they pulled it out and then sold it separately.
Yeah. You're exactly right. And then a few more items left as we talk about 1985 technology.
Hang on one second. Let's get back to that. So that sold 60 million units, right? 1, 2, 3. What ranking of all consoles do you think that is in the amount of units sold? From 1 to 30. What do you think ranks?
So you get the PlayStation, you've got the Xbox, you've got the Atari, you've got the Pong.
I'm going to guess like 15th.
Really? I would say 10th.
1 to 30.
I would say 10th.
Steve is closer. It is number 14. 61.91 million. Okay, here's a good one. What console is the most sold console of all time?
I'm going to say probably one of the PlayStations.
I would say PlayStation 1.
It's the PlayStation 2. Over 160 million sold. So, yeah, like 100 million more almost than that NES system. Isn't that wild?
Crazy.
Yeah,
so
that is crazy.
But Nintendo owns the second Nintendo DS, third Nintendo Switch, fourth Game Boy and Game Boy Color of the top 5, and PlayStation 2 is first and PlayStation 4 is fifth. So crazy. Yeah. So Nintendo has had a pretty good run there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
So the first mass market laptop computer debuted in 1985. It was a Toshiba T1100. It cost $1,899, which I'm surprised it didn't cost more than that.
I mean, I could buy 4 of those for a printer.
Today's equivalent would be $5,550 to buy that exact same laptop.
Wow.
It featured the MS-DOS 2.11 operating system, 256 kilobytes of RAM.
Killer.
And it weighed 9 pounds.
Holy cow.
9 pounds?
9 pounds.
Man.
Sheesh.
No wonder half of our world is
monochrome
back problems of our generation.
All of 2 colors. That's crazy.
That's wild.
So, and just to highlight a few other things that debuted in 1985, it was the first year we saw the Sony Discman.
And, cool.
Did you guys have one of those?
Oh yeah.
I had like a knockoff. I didn't have that one, but I had. You had
like the Korean
The
like
Philips Magnavox.
Yeah, Magnavox. That's right, Magnavox. It was. I had one, but the thing skipped so much. Like you just take a step, you had to like walk with like you're walking with a crown of jewels or something. You're like,
Right.
please don't skip.
Matata. Yeah.
The Kuna Matata, yeah. But you take a step and it bounces just a little bit. Your music sounds like.
Oh man, yeah.
So it wasn't very, very good.
My college roommate had, and this is like in the early 90s, right? But he had a disc player he had it was a Nissan, and man, that thing, like you couldn't turn left or right without that thing skipping. I'm pretty sure I still have, when I listen to songs in the early 90s in my head, I feel like there should be a skip coming any second from driving in his car.
Yeah, what was it, the Discman that you had to plug in through the cassette tape?
I don't remember
with the wire in it.
Yeah, I can't remember if he had that or if he actually had like something that like, you know, he got off the street and tried to install it or something. But it was, oh man, I remember it was tough to listen to.
I remember the adapter, that cassette adapter with the wire.
Oh yeah,
the cassette player I had. If you didn't push it in firmly enough, it would pop out in the middle of a song. And usually it's like as I'm jamming to a song and all of a sudden just pop out and the song would disappear.
And we thought that was great. Like we
thought, cool. I mean, listen to the clarity of that one word.
It's so much better than listen to tapes.
Yes.
I remember I had like the wires all tucked away, where it was all nice and neat.
Oh yeah, gotta make it look all clean.
Yeah, so clean.
Yeah, the women went crazy for that.
Oh yeah,
the clean look.
Yeah.
You know,
you knew if you had a Discman with a cassette and the wires were all bundled just nicely.
Take me home and
country roads. You know, let's go.
Country roads.
The place I belong.
It's a heck of a song.
Oh yeah. It'll take us 5 hours to listen to a 3-minute song, but whatever.
John Denver in 10 hours or less.
Yeah. But I paid top dollar for this.
Darn right.
Yes.
So
the other item that was developed in 1985 was the first lithium ion battery. And
really, in 1985,
I think we knew what to do with those back then, or how good those were. But it seems like every device has those nowadays.
Yeah,
they do.
Right. The disposable cameras were developed in 1985. So
the little paper ones.
Yep.
I had those at my you guys probably at my wedding at all the tables and stuff. We had those out.
That was such a cool idea.
But those are so cool. Like the pictures that we got from those, like those are some of our favorite wedding pictures were taken from those cameras. So,
I bet
because they were candid and everybody was just having a good time. And anyway, that was cool.
Well, here's a funny story. So Steve and I, we were lucky enough to go this weekend to NASCAR. My buddy Scott Graves is a crew chief for Chris Buescher's number 17 team at RFK Racing, right?
Nice.
And so Steve and I we've known him since college, and I've had to laugh because I got a picture of the three of us in the pit in the garage, and I started going back through some old pictures, and I found this one that Steve and Scott and I went camping in 1992 over Easter weekend in a place called Tiburon, New Mexico. And the point of that story is that we had a disposable camera at that trip. And I remember, it's so funny to think about the difference in, what you can do today and being able to look at the screen and check and make sure you get the picture right. Right. So I remember we all found this log that was like crossing this stream. So we're like, photo op. So we get the camera, and it's one of those where it's one of the newer disposables where you could push the button and it had like a quote unquote timer on it. So you wait like 10 seconds before it flashed, right? So you push this thing and like I parked it on this tree limb, and you're trying to eye it through the little scope, right? And then you just push it, and then you just run, and you hope to God that you get the picture, right? And I'm running. I don't even know if I got in the picture at the time this thing clicks. I don't even know if I made it in time or anything. And there's no way to know until like a week later when you go to get it developed, right? Yeah. So anyway, but it was so cool. I found this picture, and it's one of my favorite pictures ever. I love this picture. And so I had how it started with that picture and how it's going with the one that we got this week, and I thought that was pretty good. So, but yeah, the whole point was those disposable cameras. That was so funny because nobody in the younger generations would understand the struggle of I hope I got that picture. Nobody.
So, no. You had to like take a picture, take it to the pharmacy.
Yeah.
Because pharmacy has everything to do with photography.
Yeah,
right.
It totally made sense.
Totally.
And then like a week later, you would come back and pick up your pictures. And then you would go out to your car and like flip through them and go, oh, God.
Oh, that's terrible. I got 3 out of 30.
And then like some of the pharmacies, you could actually sit there and like you could throw away the pictures you didn't want and they wouldn't charge you for those.
Right. So I remember that. That's when it was upgraded. Yeah.
That was
they look at you and you're like, maybe you should take some lessons because you need a photography class if that 1 out of 24 did. Yeah.
Lynn and I were in Glen Rose this weekend and we went to this antique shop, and in the antique shop, this guy had this whole shelf of like cameras and stuff. And I was like, I used to own one of those. I used to have one of those. And then I heard this lady that was probably 28 or 29, I don't know, and she had her little kid with her, and they were looking at baseball cards, and she goes, "This one's from 1990, really old." And I'm like, wait a second. I used to collect baseball cards in 1990. I have a whole box of them in my garage. Yeah. So anyway, I was feeling my age this weekend.
I've heard now some of the younger generation call it people who were born in the 1900s. Have you heard of this? I'm like, are you serious? You haven't heard? This is a thing. Like they talk about talking about stories of people who were born in the 1900s. I'm like, you.
That's just offensive, is what
I know. Totally.
Yeah.
So I do have to say that there's only one picture that, in my opinion, tops the Timberlawn picture, and it's the Larry Peacock in the canoe picture.
Oh.
Only the three of us and Eric Luttrell would understand that classic moment.
Totally. That picture, if you guys are still alive when I'm dead and y'all come to my funeral and that picture is not on display, y'all need to make it on display.
I will make sure that happens.
The story from that day is just... It will never die. It'll never die.
It was the greatest moment. I would say top 10 greatest moments of my life when I was digging through those albums and found that. I was like, no way. I thought that image was just in our memories forever, and that was it.
It's like this memory that's seared into my brain forever, and now we have an image to prove it actually happened. I swear that whole day, that whole thing, that whole weekend, was just unbelievable.
It was fun.
That's when Mancation started.
That's it.
It kicked off Mancation,
and it did it right. That's great.
Yeah,
it did.
I never thought that disposable cameras would get this much time from us, but
I know.
I do have one more item to talk about. It's a nod to a toy, but it was a toy that had technology introduced inside of it. It was the Teddy
Ruxpin, baby.
Oh, and those of you that don't know Teddy Ruxpin, it was a storytelling bear that had a built-in cassette player. And as the cassette player told the story, Teddy's mouth and eyes would move with the story. And that was just like mind-blowing to us. And
that couldn't happen.
I think Keith and I were sure maybe just a little too old at that time for the Teddy Ruxpins, but we definitely saw and thought it was a cool thing. And Noel, did you enjoy yours?
I wasn't even alive then.
You weren't. Yeah, that was true. It was just a glimmer in an eye. One of my buddy's dads was invested in Teddy Ruxpin's company, so he was an investor in it, and so they had a Teddy Ruxpin and all this. So we got to see it firsthand. It was, for what it was at the time, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally.
Mm-hmm.
So. That's 1985 technology in a nutshell. So, some advancements definitely in the computer world and that year. Just some things that we still use today, which is pretty cool. And then one of the most iconic game systems ever was introduced.
Oh, man,
this year. So,
all I can think of right now is I want to go play Excite-A-Bike now. Or Excite-Bike.
I am going to go play Super Mario. Actually, RBI Baseball on the NES is
still one of the best.
probably the best game. That and Super Tecmo Bowl.
Oh, I
yeah.
love that game.
Gosh,
yeah.
I used to play. So Mitch Jones was my my roommate my sophomore year in Murdo Hall, and he used to be he was an assistant coach he was an intern coach for the football team. That dude could beat me like the worst team on Super Tecmo Bowl, and I would play the best team on Tecmo Bowl, and that dude would beat me like
That's wild.
soundly. I would have Bo Jackson, he would still beat me. It was I don't know if he was cheating or what, but
he probably knew a code.
He probably knew a code. It was really maddening, but anyway, I played a lot of football.
Yeah.
In college, between the trips to the libraries, obviously.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's just when
spent
you
a lot
had
of
that
time
free moment.
studying.
Christmas holidays.
Exactly.
So, speaking of cheat codes, I remember there used to be a magazine you could buy that had all the cheat codes.
I remember that.
And
what was the name of that?
I can't remember, but I know that we wouldn't buy the magazine. We would write down the codes in the store, and so we didn't have to buy it. I was like, tons of cheat codes for.
Wasn't it Tips and Tricks?
No. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm thinking. Hold on.
Yeah, I can hear you thinking.
Yeah,
you're thinking really loud, Noel.
No, my brain sounds like my brain sounds like the keyboard. It's
That's
a Nintendo.
Impressive.
Nintendo Power. Excuse me. Nintendo. You might want to mute that out.
Why don't you just start over? I don't know if I can mute that quickly.
Sounds like you burned a nose hair or 3.
Sorry, it did burn a little bit. No, it was called the Nintendo Power magazine. It had all the cheat codes, and like I remember Zelda had like all the maps and stuff to tell you like what rooms to go into and what rooms to avoid and stuff like that. One of my friends had a subscription to he was rich. He had the subscription to Nintendo Power, and so I would like borrow the magazine from him to get the cheat codes. But yeah,
that's awesome. I tell you, today I just be screenshot.
Oh
yeah. Different world.
Another picture. Yeah, turn the page.
But we used to have to like go to the mailbox to get the magazine. And then open the page to like get the code, and then
crazy.
Not today.
No, now it's somewhere on Reddit.
I'm curious nowadays with cell phones, do y'all take pictures of stuff so you're going to zoom in and read it better?
100%.
My wife does that a lot. I don't yet, but she does that a lot.
Yeah,
we do it.
I was making rice last night, and I could not tell if it said 1.5 cups of water or 1 1/3 cups of water. So I ended up taking a picture of zooming it in, and then I had to do a screenshot of the zoom in, and then zoom it in again, and find it was a cup and a half of water.
Yeah. Oh, the 6s and the 8s kill me.
Yeah.
No. Man. A good one, man. This is actually a decently significant year in technology. That was pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely. Probably of all the years we covered, 1995 is probably the best year in technology, and it really just kicked off the internet experience for so many of us at that time. But pretty cool. I still remember Dad bringing home that first computer and how exciting that was, and use them every day now.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Really good, man. Well, thank you all for listening. This was a great visit again, continuing the 1985 journey. Stay tuned next week. We're going to kind of take a curveball, and we are going to talk about a fast food chain that definitely had, even though it wasn't born in Gen X, it definitely was influenced by Gen X and made it what it was at the time and probably still is today. So stay tuned for that one, and we will catch you in the next episode. Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the Gen X Journey podcast belong solely to the hosts and guests and do not necessarily represent the views or opinions of any entity they are associated with. The information provided is for entertainment and informational purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to seek the advice of qualified professionals for any specific issues they may face. The creators and contributors of this podcast make no representations as to the accuracy, completeness, or validity of any information, and will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its use.